The emergency council chamber glowed with soft blue light as representatives from 47 different worlds gathered in panic. Felith Prime Oriel stood at the center, her crystalline body refracting the light into rainbow patterns across the walls. Her voice carried the weight of desperation that had brought them all together. "We are losing," she said simply. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Around her, the assembled delegates shifted uncomfortably. Navigator Threx, whose insectoid species had mapped the stars for 3,000 years, clicked his mandibles in distress. Scholar Myron floated in her specialized water tank, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with anxiety. Every species present knew the truth. The Ravagers were coming and nothing could stop them. The Ravagers had appeared 2 years ago from the dark space between galaxies. They were not living creatures, not really. They were something worse, a combination of biology and machine that consumed everything in their path. They ate worlds, stripped them bare, and moved on to the next system. The Galactic Union had tried to fight back. They had failed spectacularly. 17 more worlds have gone silent this week, Threx reported, his translator converting his clicks into standard galactic speech. At this rate, we have perhaps 6 months before the Ravagers reach the core worlds. Maybe less. Oriel looked around the chamber at faces filled with fear. The Union had always been peaceful. Their species had evolved on gentle worlds with mild climates and abundant resources. They had never needed to fight, never needed to become warriors. War was something they read about in ancient histories, not something they practiced. "We need help," Mirren said from her tank. As the Union's chief historian, she had spent decades studying pre-contact civilizations. "There must be someone somewhere who can fight what we cannot." "We have analyzed every member species," another delegate said. "None have the capacity for warfare that could match the Ravagers. We are scientists, explorers, traders, not soldiers." "Then we look beyond our members," Oriel said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what she was suggesting, and everyone knew it violated their most sacred law. The Prime Protocol had stood for 10,000 years. It stated clearly that pre-spaceflight civilizations must be left alone, allowed to develop naturally without interference. To contact them was forbidden. To ask them for help was unthinkable. "You cannot be serious," Threx said. "The protocol exists for good reason. We have no idea what might happen if we break it." "We know exactly what will happen if we do not," Oriel countered. "We will die, all of us. Every civilization in the Union will be consumed." She activated the central display. A holographic star map appeared, showing the quarantine zones, areas of space the Union had marked as off-limits. Most contained dangerous phenomena like black holes or unstable stars. But some, a precious few, contained developing civilizations. "I have been reviewing Myron's research," Oriel continued. "There are 43 known pre-spaceflight species in our galaxy. Most are too primitive to help. But there is one." She zoomed the display to a yellow star system in what the Union called Quarantine Zone 7. "This one might be different." The planet appeared on screen. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. Vast oceans covered most of the surface, with continents showing extreme variations in terrain, mountains that reached beyond breathable atmosphere, deserts that could cook organic matter in minutes, ice caps that extended far from the poles. "Deathworld Class 12, Threx read from the data. "Extreme gravity, corrosive atmosphere, violent weather patterns, tectonic instability, and aggressive predatory ecosystem." "Why would we contact a species from such a nightmare world?" "Because they survived it," Mirren said, understanding dawning in her photophores. "Look at the environmental data. Nothing should be able to evolve sapience under those conditions. The oxygen levels alone would be toxic to most Union species. And yet," she pulled up images captured by long-range observation drones. "The beings called humans moved across their world with confidence. They had spread to every continent, adapted to every climate. They built structures that reached toward the sky and machines that carried them across land, sea, and air. They had even left their planet's surface, placing primitive satellites in orbit. They call themselves humanity," Oriel said. "They have only recently developed radio technology, which is how we first detected them. According to the protocol classification, they are approximately 200 years away from achieving faster-than-light travel on their own. They also fight each other constantly," another delegate pointed out, highlighting conflict data. "Their history is filled with warfare. They have weapons capable of destroying their own world several times over." These are not peaceful beings, no, Oriel agreed. They are not. But perhaps that is exactly what we need. The debate raged for hours. Some delegates argued that contacting such a violent species would be inviting one threat to help with another. Others pointed out that the humans might not even be capable of helping, that their primitive technology would be useless against the Ravagers. A few suggested that it would be better to die than to compromise their principles. In the end, desperation won. The vote was close, but it passed. The Galactic Union would reach out to humanity and ask for help. Oriel herself composed the message. She kept it simple, knowing that human translation capabilities would be limited. She explained who they were, what threatened them, and what they needed. She included star maps and technical data about the Ravagers. She tried to convey both the urgency of their situation and their hope that humanity might answer. I am sending it to all of their major communication networks, Threx said as he prepared the transmission. If they receive it, everyone on their world will know. There will be no hiding this from them. Good, Oriel said. If we are asking them to risk their lives for us, they deserve to know the full truth. The message was sent, carried on faster-than-light communication arrays toward the little blue world in Quarantine Zone 7. Now all they could do was wait and hope that the beings from the Death World would hear their plea. What do you think they will do? Myron asked Oriel later as the council chamber emptied. Oriel looked at the holographic image of Earth, watching the planet spin peacefully in space. I do not know, she admitted. They may ignore us. They may fear us. They may not even believe the message is real. Or, Myron prompted. Or they may be exactly what we need, Oriel said. Beings who have fought for survival every day of their existence. Beings who know how to face impossible odds. Beings who might just be crazy enough to help. 6 days later, Earth's reply arrived. It was brief. We received your message. We are coming. Hold on. Oriel felt something she had not felt in months, hope. The human ships arrived 3 weeks later, and they were nothing like what the Galactic Union expected. Union vessels were elegant, designed for efficiency and comfort. They curved gracefully through space, their surfaces smooth and decorated with art from their respective cultures. The human ships looked like they had been built for war, angular armored bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. Even their names carried aggressive meanings. Defender, vigilant, unbreakable. Captain Han Ji-won stood on the bridge of the lead ship, looking at the coordinates the aliens had sent. Her crew worked quietly around her, running final checks before the meeting. She was nervous, though she would never admit it. Humanity had dreamed of meeting aliens for centuries. Now it was happening, and they were asking for help fighting a war. Ambassador Station is requesting permission for our delegation to board, Lieutenant Park Min-ho reported from his console. They sound worried. Probably wondering if we are going to eat them, Engineer Choi Dae-hyun muttered from the back of the bridge. A few crew members laughed nervously. The alien message had made it clear that humans were from what they called a death world. Earth had been in a quarantine zone not to protect humanity, but to protect the galaxy from humanity. Everyone stays professional, Ji-won ordered. We are here to help and we need to make a good first impression. Minho, you are with me. Sumi, Daehyun, Haeun, gear up. We leave in 10 minutes. The docking process was complicated. The alien station had not been designed for human ships. The airlock barely fit, and the atmospheric processors struggled to adjust for human requirements. When the door finally opened, Ji-won stepped through first. The alien on the other side stumbled backward in shock. Valeth Prime Oriel had prepared herself for this moment. She had studied the images of humans, read the biological data, but seeing them in person was different. The human captain stood almost twice her height, moving with casual confidence despite being in an unfamiliar environment. Behind her, 4 more humans emerged from the airlock, each one just as impossibly large and solid. Velith Prime Oriel, Ji-won said, having practiced the pronunciation carefully. Thank you for allowing us to visit. I am Captain Han Ji-won of the Earth Space Defense Coalition. Oriel's translator took a moment to process the human's speech. When it did, she felt relief that they could at least communicate. Captain Ji-won, welcome. We are grateful you came. She paused, trying not to stare. Please follow me. The council is waiting. As they walked through the station, Oriel noticed things that disturbed her. The humans moved with heavy footsteps that made the deck plates ring. Their body heat radiated outward, making the air around them shimmer. When Choi Dae-hyun casually gripped a railing to steady himself, the metal bent under his fingers. He looked mortified and released it quickly, but the damage was done. What these beings considered normal strength was devastating to Union construction. The council chamber had been modified for the meeting. The environmental controls struggled to maintain a temperature and atmosphere that both groups could tolerate. It ended up being uncomfortably cold for the humans and dangerously hot for most of the Union species. Everyone suffered equally, which seemed fair. Threx performed the formal introductions, clicking nervously as he presented each council member. Dr. Kang Sumi, the human medical officer, recorded everything with obvious fascination. When Scholar Mirren was introduced, Sumi moved closer to the water tank, her eyes wide with wonder. "Remarkable," Sumi breathed. "You communicate through bioluminescent patterns, and your respiratory system processes dissolved oxygen. I have so many questions." Myron found herself warming to the human despite her intimidating size. Curiosity was a trait the scholar understood well. "Perhaps we can arrange a proper discussion later," she suggested. "I would enjoy learning about your species as well." "Later," Oriel interrupted gently. "First, we must discuss the situation." She activated the holographic display showing the current Ravager positions. Red markers indicated consumed systems. Yellow showed systems under attack. Green indicated Union territory still intact. There was far more red than green. "This is what we face," Oriel explained. "The Ravagers have consumed 93 systems in 2 years. We have tried to fight them. We have lost every engagement." Sergeant Yoon Hyun leaned forward, studying the tactical data. "Why? You have faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, shielding technology. Your tech is way beyond ours." "Because we are weak," Threx said bluntly. "Our species evolved on gentle worlds. We have never needed to become warriors. When we built ships, we built them for exploration, not combat. When we developed tools, we made them for research, not destruction. We are not adapted for war." "Show us your biological specifications," Minho requested. "We need to understand your capabilities." The data that appeared made the humans exchange glances. Oriel saw their expressions and felt her hope sink. They thought the Union was pathetic. She could see it in their faces. "Your gravity tolerance is 0.3 to 0.6 standard?" Jiwon asked. "And you breathe 2 to 8% oxygen?" "Yes," Oriel confirmed. "Is that unusual?" "Earth has 1 gravity standard and 21% oxygen," Sumi explained carefully. "Your bodies would be crushed on our world. You could not breathe our air. The atmospheric pressure alone would kill most of you within minutes." The council members absorbed this information with growing horror. Oriel had known humans came from a death world, but she had not understood the full implications until now. "May I scan you?" Sumi asked Oriel politely. "Just basic biometrics. I promise it will not hurt." Oriel agreed, and Sumi produced a medical scanner. As the device worked, the doctor's expression shifted from curiosity to disbelief. "Captain, you need to see this." Jiwon looked at the scanner display. Then she looked at Oriel, then back at the scanner. "Their bones are hollow. Their organs are fragile. They have no redundancy in their biological systems. If something fails, they just die." "Redundancy?" Oriel asked. "Humans have 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, multiple circulatory pathways," Sumi explained. "We can lose significant portions of our body and still survive. You cannot. A single catastrophic injury would be fatal. We regenerate very slowly," Oriel admitted. "If my body is shattered, it would take years to regrow the damaged portions. Most Union species are similar. Rapid healing is not necessary on our worlds. Injuries are rare. Not on Earth," Minho said quietly. "On Earth, everything is trying to kill you. Predators, diseases, the environment itself. We evolved to take damage and keep fighting." Daehyun had been quiet, examining the station's infrastructure. Now he spoke up. "This station is built for comfort, not durability. The materials are light, the systems are delicate. If the Ravagers attack here, this place will come apart like paper." "We know," Threx said bitterly. "That is why we called you. We need warriors. We need beings who understand violence and survival. We need Deathworlders." Heian stood up, her armored suit whirring softly. Most of the council flinched. She was the security chief, and her combat armor made her look even more imposing. "Do you have footage of the Ravagers?" "Combat recordings?" Oriel played the files. The humans watched in silence as Union ships were torn apart, as the biomechanical swarm adapted to every defense and overwhelmed every position. When the recording ended, Heyoon turned to Jiwon. "We can fight this," she said simply. "It will not be easy, but we can fight this." "You are certain?" Oriel asked, hardly daring to hope. Jiwon nodded. "We have fought wars for our entire history. We know tactics, strategy, combat. What you see is our weakness, being from a death world. That is actually our strength. We are adapted for exactly this kind of situation." "But you are so few," Mirren observed. "You brought 5 ships. We need an army." "These 5 ships are just the first wave," Minho explained. "Earth is building more. We are mobilizing our entire defense force. Within a month, we will have 50 ships in this sector. Within 3 months, 200. The council members looked at each other in amazement. 50 ships in a month? The Union would need years to build such a fleet. "We have one condition," Jiwon said. "We work together. You know this galaxy. You have the technology, you understand the enemy's patterns. We bring combat capability. Cooperation, not conquest. Agreed?" Oriel felt her crystalline structure resonate with relief. "Agreed. Thank you, Captain. You have given us hope." As the meeting concluded, Sumi approached Mirren's tank again. "I meant what I said. I would love to learn about your species. All of your species." Mirren's patterns glowed warmly. "And I about yours. Perhaps Deathworlders are not so terrible after all." "Oh, we definitely are," Sumi said cheerfully. "But we are terrible to our enemies, not our friends." The war changed in the 10th week after humanity's arrival. The Ravagers had grown bolder, launching coordinated strikes against 3 Union worlds simultaneously. The attacks were meant to divide the defending forces, to spread them thin and break them. It had worked against the Union before. This time the humans were ready. Captain Han Jiwon stood in the command center of the orbital defense platform above the Velith colony world. Around her, holographic displays showed the tactical situation across all 3 targeted systems. The Ravager fleet was massive, the largest concentration of enemy forces seen in the entire war. Hundreds of biomechanical ships all converging on Union territory. "They are committing everything," Lieutenant Park Minho observed. "This is their main force." "Good," Jiwon said calmly. "That means we know where they are." She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Jiwon. Execute battle plan Hammer." "Repeat, execute Hammer." The human fleet moved into position. 53 ships, everything Earth had managed to send so far. They were outnumbered 5 to 1. But Jiwon had not built her strategy around matching numbers. She had built it around understanding how the Ravagers thought. Scholar Mirren watched from the observation deck, recording everything. Beside her, Velith Prime Oriel stood silently, her crystalline body rigid with tension. They could see the Ravager fleet approaching, a dark mass blotting out the stars. "There are so many," Oriel whispered.
"How can we possibly—" "Watch," Myron said.
She had spent weeks studying human military history. She knew what was coming. The Ravagers adapted to threats. They learned from each encounter, modified their tactics, changed their biology to counter whatever had hurt them before. This made them nearly impossible to fight with conventional methods. But engineer Choi Daehyun had noticed something. The Ravagers adapted to the last thing that hurt them, not the next thing. They were always one step behind, reacting instead of predicting. Phase 1, execute, Jiwon ordered. Human destroyers launched missiles, thousands of them. The Ravagers had seen missiles before. They had adapted countermeasures, point defense systems that shot down incoming projectiles. They activated those systems now, confident in their defense. The missiles were decoys. Half of them were empty shells designed only to draw fire. The other half were not heading for the Ravager ships at all. They were heading for the space between the fleets, spreading reflective chaff and electronic noise. In seconds, the battlefield became a confused mess of sensor interference. Phase 2, Minho called out. Human boarding craft launching now. The Union species had never developed boarding tactics. The idea of deliberately flying small ships into enemy vessels seemed suicidal. The humans did it without hesitation. Armored assault craft, each carrying a squad of soldiers, shot through the chaos of the chaff field. The Ravagers could not track them all. Sergeant Yoon-hain led her squad onto a Ravager carrier ship. They cut through the hull with thermal lances, creating their own entrance. The interior was a nightmare of organic corridors and mechanical systems fused together. The air was toxic, the temperature extreme. Hain's squad moved through it as if it were a training exercise. Target the neural nodes, she ordered, just like we practiced. The Ravagers had learned to defend against external attacks. They had not learned to defend against internal sabotage. Human soldiers moved through the ship like a plague, destroying critical systems, setting charges in key locations. When they were done, they evacuated quickly. Behind them, the Ravager ships began to tear themselves apart. In orbit above the second targeted world, Park Min-ho commanded a wing of fighters. The Ravagers had adapted to human missiles, so he did not use missiles. Instead, his squadron carried kinetic penetrators, simple metal rods accelerated to incredible speeds. No explosives, no guidance systems, nothing for the Ravagers to detect and counter. Just mass and velocity. Target locked. All wings, fire on my mark. The penetrators hit like the fist of an angry god. They punched through Ravager armor, through their biomechanical structure, through their adaptive defenses. The sheer kinetic energy was something the Ravagers could not adapt to quickly enough. Ships broke apart, their internal systems failing. At the third world, Daehyun had prepared a special surprise. The Ravagers consumed matter to fuel their growth. They ate metal, organic material, anything they could break down and incorporate. Daehyun had given them something they would want to eat. Cargo containers full of raw materials floating in orbit like an offering. The Ravagers took the bait. They began consuming the containers, drawing the material into their processing centers. 5 minutes later, the material reached critical mass inside the Ravager ships. Daehyun had laced it with human-designed nanomachines, too small for the Ravagers to detect until too late. The machines activated simultaneously, disrupting Ravager biological processes and causing cascade failures throughout their systems. Brilliant, Mirren breathed, watching the Ravager formation collapse. He weaponized their own adaptation process against them. But the Ravagers were not finished. The main hive ship, a massive construct the size of a small moon, pushed forward through the debris. It had been hanging back, learning from the battles, adapting to human tactics. Now it entered the fight, and it brought weapons the Union had never seen before. Energy beams lanced out, catching a human cruiser. The shields held for 3 seconds, then failed. The ship began to break apart. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Ji-won ordered. She watched the tactical display as her fleet scattered, trying to avoid the devastating firepower. They were losing. The hive ship was too powerful, too well defended. Every second it remained active, more humans died. "We need to take out that ship," Min-ho said urgently from his fighter. "It is going to tear us apart." "I know," Ji-won said. An idea formed in her mind. Terrible idea. A human idea. "Min-ho, can you get me a flight path to that hive ship? Direct approach, full burn?" "Yes, but Captain, you would never survive the defensive fire. Nothing could get through that." "I am not asking if I will survive," Ji-won interrupted. "I am asking if I can reach it." Understanding dawned. Min-ho's voice went quiet. "Yes, you can reach it." Oriel heard the exchange. Horror filled her. "No, Captain Ji-won, you cannot." "There must be another way." "There is not," Ji-won said simply. She turned to the crew of the defense platform. "Evacuate the station. You have 5 minutes." "That is an order." "Captain," her first officer began. "Go. Now. Someone needs to survive to tell Earth what happened here." Ji-won sealed the command center. "Min-ho, you are in command of the fleet. Get everyone out. Make sure they remember." Min-ho's voice cracked. "Captain, please, that is an order, Lieutenant. Protect the Union worlds. That is our mission." Ji-won cut the channel before he could argue further. She began overriding the defense platform's safety systems. The platform had a reactor, a massive fusion core that powered its weapons and shields. Normally, it was carefully controlled, stable, safe. But if someone removed all the safeties, disabled all the cooling systems, and pushed it past maximum output, it would become a bomb. "A very big bomb. What are you doing?" Oriel demanded, still on the observation deck. "Stop this!" "I am doing what needs to be done," Ji-won said. She activated the thrusters, pointing the entire platform toward the hive ship. "You need to leave. This whole structure is about to become a missile." "I will not leave you to die alone," Oriel said firmly. "If this is the end, we face it together." Ji-won felt something warm in her chest. Fear, yes, but also respect for the fragile crystalline being who refused to abandon her. "Then hold on. This is going to be rough." The platform accelerated toward the hive ship. Ravager weapons fired, tearing through the hull, but Ji-won kept the reactor core pointed away from the incoming fire. The platform was breaking apart around her, but the core remained intact. 10 seconds to impact, G1 counted down. 5, 4, 3. The platform hit the hive ship at a significant fraction of light speed. The reactor core pushed beyond all safety limits, critical mass achieved in milliseconds. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, the Ravager hive ship was gone. So was the defense platform. Park Min-ho watched from his fighter, his vision blurred with tears. Around him, the human fleet had gone silent. Then, slowly, they resumed their assault. The Ravagers had lost their command ship. Their coordination broke down. The human and Union forces pressed the advantage. The battle lasted 6 more hours. When it was over, the Ravager fleet was destroyed. The 3 Union worlds were safe. The cost had been high. 8 human ships lost, hundreds of soldiers killed. And Captain Han Ji-won, who had given everything to protect worlds she had only just learned existed. In the wreckage of the defense platform, rescue crews found something impossible. A small section of the command center, shielded by debris, had survived. Inside, unconscious but alive, were Ji-won and Oriel. The explosion had thrown them clear at the last second, momentum carrying them away from the center of the blast. Ji-won woke up 3 days later in a medical bay. Every part of her body hurt. Dr. Kang Sumi stood over her, looking exhausted but relieved. "You should be dead," Sumi said. "You took enough radiation to kill a dozen people. Your body temperature dropped to hypothermic levels." The first joint operation began 2 weeks after the initial meeting. A Ravager scouting force had been detected near a mining colony on the edge of Union space. The colony had been evacuated, but critical equipment remained behind, equipment the Union desperately needed. The mission was simple: retrieve the equipment before the Ravagers consumed everything. Lieutenant Park Min-ho led the ground team. With him were Sergeant Yoon Haeun and 6 other soldiers. Navigator Threx accompanied them as a Union observer, though he was safely aboard the orbiting ship. Scholar Mirren had also insisted on observing, claiming it was for historical documentation. In truth, she was fascinated by the humans and wanted to see them in action. The planet was designated as hostile by Union standards. The atmosphere contained sulfur compounds that would burn delicate tissues. The temperature averaged 40 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cause heat stress in most Union species within minutes. Volcanic activity made the ground unstable, and the gravity was 0.8 standard, punishingly high for beings used to lighter worlds. "This world is a nightmare," Threx commented from the safety of the ship. "How can you even consider going down there?" "This," Min-ho said, checking his suit seals. "This is mild. Earth has places worse than this. We train in them." The dropship descended through the sulfurous atmosphere. Haeun stood at the open ramp, completely calm despite the violent turbulence. When they reached the landing zone, she jumped out while the ship was still 5 meters above the ground. She landed in a crouch, armor absorbing the impact, and immediately began scanning for threats. Threx watched through the drone feeds in horror. "She just jumped from that height on a high-gravity world. Standard deployment," Min-ho explained as he followed, his own landing just as controlled. "We trained for much worse." The mining facility was a kilometer away across rough volcanic terrain. The human soldiers moved quickly, their suits protecting them from the hostile atmosphere. Myron watched through the drone cameras, noting how they moved. They did not walk carefully like Union species would. They ran, jumped over obstacles, climbed over rough ground with casual ease. "They are moving so fast," she observed. "Do they not tire?" "Humans have incredible endurance," Threx said, reading from the biological data Sumi had provided. "They evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Their cardiovascular systems are extremely efficient." Halfway to the facility, Haeun raised a fist. The team stopped immediately, dropping into defensive positions. Contact. Multiple Ravager drones incoming from the east. The Ravagers appeared over a ridge, their biomechanical bodies moving with disturbing fluidity. They were scout units, smaller than the main combat forms, but still dangerous. Union forces had learned to flee from even these lesser variants. The humans opened fire. The weapons they used were primitive by Union standards. Chemical propellants launching metal projectiles at high velocity, but they were devastatingly effective. The Ravager drones jerked and stumbled as bullets tore through their organic components. The machines tried to adapt, shifting their armor plating, but the humans adjusted their aim faster. "They are fighting them," Mirren breathed in amazement. They are actually fighting them hand to hand. One Ravager drone got close to Heian. Instead of retreating, she stepped forward. Her armored fist connected with the machine's central mass, and the force of the blow sent it flying backward. The drone tried to rise, but Heian was already there, firing her weapon at point-blank range until it stopped moving. She just punched it, Threx said weakly. She punched the Ravager and it fell. Human bone density is roughly 4 times that of most Union species, Miner quoted from memory. Their muscular system can generate force levels that would tear most other species apart. Combined with mechanical assistance from the armor, the fight lasted less than 3 minutes. When it was over, all the Ravager drones were destroyed. The human team had taken no casualties. Heian was checking her team for injuries. Minor acid burns on Corporal Taewon's left arm, she reported. The Ravager got through his armor seal. Minho examined the injury. The soldier's skin was reddened and blistering where Ravager fluid had made contact. It looked painful. Can you continue? Yes, sir, Taewon said without hesitation. It is not that bad. Threx was stunned. Not that bad? That injury would incapacitate any Union species for weeks. How is he still functioning? Adrenaline, Minho explained. Human bodies release chemicals during stress that suppress pain and increase performance. He probably cannot even feel it right now. We will treat it properly once we are back on the ship. The team continued to the mining facility. They worked quickly, loading the critical equipment onto portable sleds. Choi Daehyun, who had joined them via shuttle, examined the facility's power core. This is still active, he reported. We can salvage it, but the radiation levels are dangerously high. Union specs say this area should be off limits. On how high? Minho asked. Daehyun checked his scanner. 40 millisieverts per hour. Lethal dose for most Union species would be reached in about 3 hours. And for humans, we have maybe 6 hours before we need to worry. More if we rotate personnel. Daehyun started disconnecting the power core. I can have this extracted in 2 hours. Threx could not believe what he was hearing. You're going to work in lethal radiation for 2 hours? Voluntarily. It is not lethal to us, Daehyun said patiently. Well, not immediately. Look, Earth has natural radiation sources, some places more than others. Our bodies can handle it for limited periods. It is like being in strong sunlight. Unpleasant but manageable. As Daehyun worked, a larger Ravager force appeared on the sensors. Combat drones, dozens of them, moving toward the facility. Han deployed her team in defensive positions. We need 15 more minutes, Daehyun called out. Keep them off me. What followed was a demonstration of human combat capability that left the Union observers speechless. The soldiers fought with coordinated precision, covering each other's positions and falling back in controlled stages. When they ran low on ammunition, they switched to backup weapons. When those ran dry, they used the environment itself, collapsing sections of the facility to create barriers. Heian fought at the front, her armor taking hits that would have destroyed any Union combat suit. When a Ravager drone tackled her, she grappled with it, holding it in place while another soldier fired into its vulnerable core. She was thrown against a wall with enough force to crack the concrete, but she got back up and returned to the fight. She should be dead, Mirren whispered. That impact should have killed her. Human skeletal structure includes a flexible rib cage and a reinforced spine. Threx read from his screen, his voice distant with shock. Multiple redundant organs protected by layers of muscle and bone. She probably has internal bruising, maybe a cracked rib, but nothing immediately fatal. Daehyun finished extracting the power core just as the defensive line began to falter. Got it, time to leave. The team retreated in good order, carrying the salvaged equipment. The Ravagers pursued, but human rearguard kept them at bay. When the shuttle arrived, they loaded up quickly and lifted off. Ravager fire scored the hull, but the thick armor held. Back on the main ship, the team received medical attention. Taewon's acid burn was treated and bandaged. Heian had 3 cracked ribs and extensive bruising, but she refused to be confined to medical bay. I have had worse, she insisted. I can still function. The Union observers gathered to review the mission footage. Oriel had watched the entire operation remotely. Now she looked at the humans with new understanding. You call this a successful operation, she said slowly, but you took injuries. Your people were hurt. Light casualties, Minho corrected. Everyone survived. In human military terms, this was a very clean operation. You consider survival alone to be success? We consider completing the mission to be success. Ji-won said, joining the conversation. Yes, people got hurt. That happens in combat. But they will heal and we accomplished our objective. We retrieved your equipment. We gathered intelligence on Ravager combat patterns and we proved that they can be fought and beaten. Myron had been quiet, her bioluminescent patterns flickering thoughtfully. Now she spoke. I begin to understand. You are not fearless. You feel pain, you can be injured, you know you can die. But you fight anyway. You accept the risk as part of the mission. That is correct, Haeyeon said. Fear is useful. It keeps you alert. But you cannot let it control you. You acknowledge it and do your job anyway. On our world, such an attitude would be considered insane, Threk said. We prioritize safety above all else. The idea of deliberately walking into danger is necessary sometimes, Ji-won finished. We do not seek danger for its own sake. But when something needs to be done, when people need protecting, you do what you must. That is what it means to be a soldier. Oriel felt something shift in her understanding. She had called humans Deathworlders, and she had meant it as a description of where they came from. But now she realized it was more than that. It was what they had become, being shaped by a harsh world into something capable of facing any threat. The other Union species need to see this, she decided. They need to understand what you are, what you can do. 3 months had passed since the Great Battle. The galaxy was changing in ways no one had predicted. Captain Han Ji-won stood in the new embassy building on Velith Prime. The structure was a collaboration between human and Union architects. Strong enough to withstand a death world environment, but beautiful in the elegant style the Union preferred. It represented what both civilizations were learning to build together. Through the window she could see the city rebuilding. The Ravagers had been pushed back, their attacks growing less frequent and less effective. The war was not over. But for the first time in 2 years, the Union worlds had hope. You look thoughtful, Velith Prime Oriel said, entering the room. Her crystalline body chimed softly as she moved. She had recovered from their shared ordeal, though she claimed the experience had changed her in ways beyond the physical. I am thinking about how much has changed, Ji-won admitted. When we first arrived, you were terrified of us. Now we work together like we have been allies for years. Fear born from ignorance, Oriel said. We saw Deathworlders and assumed monsters. We did not see the beings behind the label. We did not see friends. Down in the city, engineer Choi Dae-hyun supervised a construction crew. Half the workers were human, half were from various Union species. They were building a new shield generator, one that combined Union energy technology with human durability engineering. Dae-hyun had discovered he enjoyed teaching, showing the Union engineers how to build things that could withstand punishment. The trick is redundancy, he explained to a Velith engineer named Koros. You always assume something will break, so you build backup systems, alternative pathways. That way when something fails, the whole structure does not collapse. Koros found the concept strange but fascinating. On our world, things rarely break. We design for efficiency, not durability. But I see the value now. In a hostile environment or during an attack, these principles could save lives. Exactly, Dae-hyun said, pleased. And your energy systems are incredibly efficient. If we combine your tech with our building methods, we can create structures that are both strong and sophisticated. In the Medical Research Center, Dr. Kang Sumi worked with a team of Union scientists. They were studying human healing capabilities, trying to understand how Deathworld biology might be adapted to help Union species. Sumi had become something of a celebrity among Union medical researchers. They called her Miracle Worker, though she insisted she was just a doctor doing her job. The key is the human immune system, she explained to her colleagues. It is constantly fighting off threats, adapting to new diseases. If we could develop medical treatments that mimic this adaptability, we might be able to help Union species recover faster from injuries. Scholar Myron attended the lecture, recording everything. She had been writing a history of the human Union contact, and her work was becoming required reading across Union space. In it, she tried to explain what made Deathworlders special. They do not fight because they love violence, she wrote. They fight because their world taught them that survival requires struggle. But that same harsh world also taught them compassion. They know what it means to suffer, so they protect others from suffering. This combination of strength and kindness is what makes them remarkable. The military training center was Lieutenant Park Minho's domain. He had been promoted to commander of the Joint Human-Union Defense Force. His job was to teach Union species how to defend themselves. It was challenging work. Union species were not built for combat, but they were intelligent and determined. "You will never be as physically strong as humans," Minho told a class of Union recruits. "That is fine. Strength is not everything. You have advantages we do not. Better sensors, faster reflexes in some cases, specialized abilities we cannot match. We work together, using each person's strengths to cover another's weaknesses." Sergeant Yoon Hyun helped demonstrate tactics. She moved through the training course with ease, then watched as Union students attempted the same obstacles. They struggled, but they kept trying. She found herself impressed by their determination. "Good," she called out to a Valeth student who had finally made it over a climbing wall. "You fell 3 times, but you kept going. That is what matters. Persistence wins battles." The student, exhausted but proud, chimed with pleasure, "I am learning from the best." "Deathworlders never give up." "Neither do you," Hyun said. "You are still here, still training. That makes you a warrior too." In the diplomatic sector, negotiations were taking place. The Galactic Union had formally invited humanity to become the 48th member species. The vote had been unanimous, but the details of membership required careful discussion. "We need to address the elephant in the room," said a Union diplomat from an aquatic species. "Humans are dangerous. We all know this. What guarantees do we have that you will not use your capabilities against Union worlds?" Jiwon, representing Earth in the negotiations, nodded. "That is a fair concern. We propose a mutual defense treaty with strict guidelines. Human military forces can only operate in Union space with Union approval. In return, we want access to your scientific databases and permission to establish embassies on key worlds." "You are asking for knowledge sharing," another diplomat observed. "Yes. We want to learn from you, and we want you to learn from us. If we are going to be true allies, we need to trust each other with information." Jiwon paused. "We also propose joint colonies, worlds where humans and Union species live together, learning from each other." This caused discussion. The idea of living alongside Deathworlders still made many Union species nervous. But Oriel spoke up. "I have lived with humans for 3 months now. I have worked with them, fought beside them, nearly died with them. They are not monsters. They are people. Different from us, yes, but good people. I support this proposal." The treaty was signed 2 weeks later. Earth officially joined the Galactic Union, bringing with it not just military might but also cultural exchange, technological innovation, and a new perspective on survival and cooperation. Trade began almost immediately. Union worlds wanted human-manufactured goods, items built to Deathworld standards that could withstand extreme conditions. Humans wanted Union technology, especially their energy systems and medical advances. Both sides benefited. Cultural exchange was more complex. Human music was too loud for most Union species. Human food was often too spicy or too heavily seasoned. Human entertainment was considered either too violent or too emotionally intense. But slowly adaptations were made. Union composers began incorporating human rhythms into their work. Human chefs learned to prepare meals suitable for delicate alien biologies. Artists from both cultures collaborated on projects that neither could have created alone. Children were the fastest to adapt. On the joint colony world of New Harmony, human kids played alongside young Union beings. They did not care about Deathworld classifications or biological differences. They just saw friends. Jiwon visited New Harmony during its dedication ceremony. She watched a human child carefully holding a fragile Velith youth, helping them climb a tree. The Velith would never have been able to manage it alone in the higher gravity. The human child understood this and offered help naturally without hesitation. "This is the future," Oriel said, standing beside Jiwon. "Not humans protecting us, not us teaching you, but both together building something new." "I hope so," Jiwon said. "We still have the Ravagers to deal with. They are adapting to our tactics. The war is far from over. But we are not alone anymore," Oriel countered. "When the Ravagers first came, we faced them in terror, divided and weak. Now we face them united. Human strength and Union wisdom. That combination is more powerful than any weapon." A priority message arrived during the ceremony. Park Minho's face appeared on the screen looking serious. "Captain, we have detected Ravager signals in deep space." "Not attacking. They are broadcasting some kind of message." "What does it say?" Jiwon asked. We do not know yet, but it is directed toward Union space. All of Union space. They want us to hear this. Scholar Myron worked with human linguists to decode the message. What they found was unexpected. The Ravagers were requesting negotiation. They wanted to discuss terms. They have never done this before, Threx said, confused. The Ravagers do not negotiate. They consume. They do now, Sumi said, reading the analysis. Look at their recent attack patterns. They are avoiding human-defended sectors. They are choosing easier targets. They are afraid. Deathworlders have that effect, Daehyun said with dark humor. We scared the galaxy-consuming swarm so badly they want to talk. The negotiation request created fierce debate. Many Union species wanted to refuse, to press the advantage and destroy the Ravagers completely. Others argued for peace, for an end to the killing. Jiwon met with Earth government officials via quantum communication. What do you think? The Secretary General asked. Should we talk to them? Yes, Jiwon said. Not because we trust them, but because we need to understand what they want. Why did they start attacking in the first place? What are they? If we can answer those questions, maybe we can find a permanent solution. The first meeting with Ravager representatives was tense. The beings that appeared were unlike anything seen before, partially organic, partially mechanical, and clearly intelligent.